He said, as seen in your presentation, 3D printing has already been used to create architecture, but always in a very small scale. Do you foresee this technology being feasible to be brought for on-site fabrication, printing of smaller houses, as the printing system and the technology now is modular, right? So if so, if you foresee this in the near future, how do you overcome difficulties such as unpredictable factors like I would think weather, seismic calculation and condition caused by the environment? Yeah. This from Alvin. Yeah.
I don't even only foresee it; it's happening. You know, all the printers that we're sending out are now being employed in projects where they will do real houses for real people. So it's really happening. We can always discuss what is big and what is small, but I mean, as I told you, the printer that we sold for Saudi Arabia could print 900 square meter building. If you look at the buildings all around, except for the 5% high risers, you know, most buildings are 1, 2, 3 stories. Our ambition is to go to 5 stories, and then we think it's probably the end of it in terms of on-site. And at least for the majority of cities, if you go to 5 stories, then you've covered something like 85 or 90% of all building. Then the second part of the question: how do we account for let's say conditions that are present at the site? Well, that's not different from any other construction project. Most construction today, globally seen, is actually done as on-site casting of concrete. Yes, there is precast, but precast is only developed really in a few selected countries. So in my country, for instance, we are totally precast freaks because we believe in automation, we believe in industrialization. We don't like, let's say, manual work on site, but just go to Germany. On-site casting is way bigger in Germany, and they have the same belief, but they just, they have the same trust in industrialization, but they just like the fact better that when you do it on site, you don't have all the transport restrictions and constraints. You do not have to reinforce as many parts as you do when you do precast, because when you do precast, all parts have to be reinforced, although it is not necessary for the building. So it's also more wasteful to do precast. So we take the same precautions. The printer, as I said, is safe to operate in rain, so that's not a problem. But you cannot, in essence, cast in rain with the concrete. So you would have to wait for the rain to stop. But that's not different from any other concrete. Any high-rise structures you have in Singapore are made predominantly with in situ casting of concrete. They have to take the same precautions. If the weather is really bad, they can't work. So not a big difference, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe just also to follow up on that, I was just looking through the other many questions, and now that it's possible that you're looking at building taller buildings, higher buildings, and most part of the world today will be of the world population will be moving to cities. So do you foresee at some point of time, while we see that it's possible to 3D print with different materials, do you foresee that 3D printing would be compatible, say, with steel reinforcement? I mean,
Sure, sure,
yeah,
sure,
people
sure,
higher, taller, and I
sure.
mean,
Of course, we are already reinforcing the structures that we are building, and we are trying to do that more and more automatic. Here, the printer can also help. For instance, we're working on a project now where the printer is carrying in the reinforcement and placing the reinforcement. But the killer application in terms of how do we automate it or automate it 100% still needs to be found, a general one, because we can put steel fibers in there and that can take care of some of the reinforcement, but the real totally automated general reinforcement solution that can be sort of standard applied in most projects still have to be developed. Again, we are working on it. There are 300 universities or so working on it, because everybody knows that we need to think about the integration with the reinforcement. So I'm sure we'll get there. This is similar to how it was with, let's say, mobile phones. Most of you guys are too young to remember that. But when mobile phones came around at the end of the 80s, you know, they were suitcase size. They cost 3,000 euros, and they could hardly call anybody. And definitely they didn't have color screens or anything. And then just 5 years later, we had the first handheld, small, really mobile phones. We called them car phones or similar, because they were installed in cars still. And then a couple of years later, we were all running around with them in our back pocket. And this is where you should see the industry. We are maybe not where the bulky mobile phones were initially, but we're somewhere in between that and the handheld device that we're all running around with now. And it will only take a few years, we'll be there. So I think this is going to change the construction market a lot. Whether it will take 20, 30, or 40% of the market, nobody has a clue, because it's very, very difficult to predict the future, of course. But we are constantly surprised about the interest. I mean, as I told you, we sold 2 printers to Africa. Had you asked me last year, I would say Africa is of no interest to us. And you know, this is not like South Africa and developed African countries. Is actually among the least developed African countries that we sold printers to.
Yeah, so Fiji, based on your Autodesk research, right? So what do you think about this mixing materials and, how these things actually progresses as well moving forward?
Yeah, so it's definitely looking forward on the like a sustainable housing. Like for example, if you have a material on your site, it's how we could make use of that. This kind of for example, in Singapore we use concrete a lot. Maybe in some other country they use some different kind of material. So the material we have to we really need to work on it. I mean, like we have a team working on that as well. Yeah.
That's very easy, Vijay. You just change the regulations all over the world. No, I'm serious, because concrete is the most used material everywhere, and part of the reason is that the regulations are promoting standard concrete. So, for instance, when we put 23% recycled tiles in the first project that we did, right? Because we like to be green. We're extremely green as a country.
Yeah.
And the authorities said, great, we like recycling, but you have a problem. And I said, well, why? I said, well, because we don't have any concretes with recycled materials that are approved. So, that's what you're going to run into.
Yeah.
So that's why we solved it by having columns. We printed columns with our very strong concrete with recycled tiles, non-approved. And then we took a much weaker concrete, poured into the column, put rebar in there. And according to the authorities, that much weaker concrete, that is 40% as strong as ours, was the load-bearing part, because this was according to the regulations.
Yeah.
So it's a serious hurdle, this one, for innovation, the regulations.
Yeah.
The standards and the norms.
100% into that. What I'm thinking the way, so we no need to build only like a housing structure, so it can be something else. So we could use like a low-cost material in the place where we live. So yeah.
Yeah, and not all. I mean, if you look at brick housing, which has been around for hundreds of years, you go to my country, you can find brick houses that are 400 years old and so on. They're not reinforced. So a lot of structures, they don't need reinforcement, which is also, the other argument against precast, because when you do precast, you have to reinforce each element, otherwise you can't transport them.
Yeah. Okay, let's just go back a little bit in terms of the processes, right? When you say that, okay, this thing can go to your printer, but prior to that, for architects, for example, or for structural engineers, how do they actually design this thing? I mean, we know that right now we kind of enforce everybody or make everyone actually go for this thing called building information modeling, right? So from BIM, for example, will this can be translated straight away to the printer, or Is there any
Yeah.
intermediate processes that needs to be done beforehand?
No, not with gantry printers. With gantry printers, it's actually as easy as you take your Revit file from Autodesk or from AutoCAD. You export a step file, and within 2 minutes you have the print file.
That's it?
So if yeah, that's it. If you architects have done your job correctly, but you know what? Most often you haven't. So we pick up on that. When we do this, say 3 dimensions, you run into trouble, and that's because the architects are still mostly used to plan and make drawings in 2D and then lift them up in 3D. But when we turn them into a 3D model that we can look at from all sides, etc., we pick up on that. Hey, you did a mistake here, and then typically we spend 15 minutes in correcting it, etc. But that's only until the architect knows that what he has to be careful with, etc., etc. If you do your job correctly, our software will automatically takes 2 minutes. We have the print file. That's different when you have a robotic arm. But when you have gantry systems, so it's not only us, it's everybody that has gantry systems can do that in general.
Okay, that's great.
So it's not so difficult. It's working with your normal tools and AutoCAD, Autodesk tools, right? So just do a Revit file, export it in step, and then you're good to go.
Yeah. So imagine you have some assembly when you're doing a printing. For example, you're assembling your window while you're printing. So in that case, maybe we need to add more element into that. So yeah, other than it's like a straight slicing and generate the G codes. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, as soon as the printer starts to have more functionality, I mean, why can't it do painting also, for instance?
Yeah.
Then we have to revisit the software part and so on. But we take it upon us to, if we add more functionality to the printer, then we would also basically have to do the software part.
Well, I guess this one also related to one of the questions here from the audience. Say, how about like printing organic shape, that kind of that kind of weird ones, or that kind of it's not like a straight boxy kind of thing, right?
So if you looked at the bot building,
yeah.
If you looked at the bot building, the bot building does not have a straight wall, and that was deliberate, completely deliberate. We even did waves on the walls because we are in the harbor, and good architecture, as you know, should reflect your surrounding and should tell you something about where you are. So we had waves going around the walls. We had lots of fun when we did that, but that was only until the roofing guy came, because at that point we were not doing the roofing ourselves. We had a roofing guy, and he came in and he looked at these walls that had to connect up to the roof, and he looked and he said, this is going to cost you 5 times the normal price. So with that, I'm saying, don't go bananas. We don't care. From the printing side, we don't care at all. We can do whatever you like, but don't go bananas, because there will be some other guy who will kill you with his prices because you've done something crazy. So
all right.
Adding into that, we have manufacturing solutions which show the user in upfront before you print something overhang, like for example, like a banana shape. So what we are trying, we're trying to bring that into concrete. So that's what some research is going on there. That's saying, yeah.
That's another interesting point, this thing about the overhang. Overhang means that you print where suddenly some part of the structure is not leaning directly on what is underneath.
Yeah.
And we thought, we've been asked many times, and it's like that with a lot of questions. We can't give a specific answer. There's not one truth here.
Yeah.
And we've been asked many times. So we said, we think we can do 20%. And then we had a demanding customer who said, but why can't you do more? And we said, well, because, there is a limit to, you can't print in free air, right? So we said, well, okay, we'll test a little bit and do various things. And after 5 trials, on the 5th trial, we printed with 30% overhang. So, and that was by changing the layer width compared to the layer height. So by changing these things, we could actually change the angle of overhang that we could do.
Yeah.
but it's a reflective again of the fairly unmature state of the industry, that there are a lot of these questions we can't answer because we haven't tried it. There's so many combinations possible, and we simply haven't tried them all. It's impossible. There are millions of combinations.
Okay. So perhaps another one for Vijay here. I know you mentioned about Autodesk Construction Connect or Construction Cloud, right?
Yeah.
So how this entire ecosystem of design plus construction, and now construction now become kind of a, robotic, interconnected of the whole thing in terms of like digital fabrications and all this. So how this thing, you guys gonna put it together as the whole ecosystem as a solution from the software point of view?
Construction cloud is like a kind of number of cloud solutions which we have. So it's like a PlanGrid or BIM 360. These are the normally used in this construction industry to view, to schedule the work in the virtual world as well as on the construction world. So these are the products like connecting, making as a bridge to in between. So we don't need paper anymore, so paper drawings or whatever. So these solutions will help into that. We have another cloud-based platform which called Forge that will connect this entire software solution to make a kind of applications or automated software solutions. So any partners can come and take that opportunity to take the Forge platform, and they can build their own applications. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Tian, you have other?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, Cobod Hendrik has been doing, technology has improved leaps and bounds over 3 years, and it has markets in Middle East, Europe, and Africa. Will you take some time, maybe when the pandemic is over, you come over to Asia, this part of the world?
No, we actually we have one of our printers in Asia right now. I can't disclose more details of it, but there is one of the printers in Asia already. And yes, I mean, Singapore is definitely extremely interesting for us, and actually made very relevant by the COVID. But we had already, prior to COVID, we had sort of we've seen one of the limitations in our sales. We get, just to give you a picture, we get thousands of requests every year, right? Thousands of requests for information. People see this new wonder thing and they want more information, and maybe 20 or 30% are dreamers, hey, can you come and print me a house in my backyard and things like that. But we take pride in trying to answer each and every single one that comes in. So we have a huge funnel, you can say, of thousands of leads. We then make sure that we send very solid information, or a lot of information the first time. That already scales down the amount quite a lot, because people get, they get a price list, they get all kinds of information. And so most of the dreamers are then disappearing, etc. And, more and more we sort of scale in. Eventually, there will be like maybe, I don't know, 50 to 80 companies visiting us per year. And what we've seen is that it's necessary for people still consider this, or organization companies still consider this to be very risky. So they will not buy before they have been to see us. They've been to see a live printing session. They've been to see the bot building. They've talked to our various experts, etc. So we've been thinking, okay, we have difficulties in getting everybody to Denmark, because Denmark is not the middle of the world, despite what I think, or the center of the world. So, when Muhammad will not come to the mountain, maybe we have to move to the mountain to Muhammad. So we're actually looking at establishing competence centers, as we call them, regional competence centers, where you will have a printed building, you will have a printer, and you will have a local team. And the hub for Asia is actually destined to be Singapore. So we have identified Singapore, Dubai, and Florida as the 3 hubs that we want to have to service respectively Asia, Middle East and Africa for Dubai, and North and South America for Florida. And then from Denmark, we can service Europe. So if anybody is interested in discussing that, I'm all for it.
I'm really looking forward. Well, Vijay, do you have anything to add? I mean, Autodesk has also, I mean, similar strategy of machine learning, 3D simulation design tool. Do you foresee yourself working with Hedrick in the near future?
Yeah, well, why not? Yeah, I'm super
You want
interested.
to buy a printer, Vijay?
Yeah.
Good.
I'm sure Singapore is like a kind of like a welcome, will be warm welcome you on that perspective, because we are getting many requests from institutes, yeah, some other regions. So maybe I'll take it in a like a on the background. We'll talk on.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. You have NTU also, Nanjing, yeah, that is very, very good and has done a lot of interesting research. And I would say is together with Swinburne down in Australia, is the leading academic institution in Asia. Super good research, interesting projects that they've done. They have printer technology also. They are working very closely with Eindhoven, which is a leading university in Europe and the world, I would say, for the application of 3D construction printing. And so Eindhoven and NTU has a cooperation agreement, and they're doing very, very well, I would say.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's great, guys. Okay, sorry, because I think we running out of time now. It's like 3:07 now. Okay,
you're throwing us out.
All right. Okay, so yeah. I think I need to wrap up. So okay, so hopefully all of you have a a good time session today, right? Thank you, Hendrik, for your sharing. Thank you, Vijay, for your sharing as well at BeyondX event. Okay, and for audience members in Zoom and also Facebook, right? Thank you for your time, right? You guys also can check the other schedule today. In the agenda, as well as the other session for tomorrow. Okay, so we will doing this BeyondX on a yearly basis. So we will see you guys again perhaps next year in 2021. Okay, either in a digital platform or maybe in a physical platform if the allows. Okay. All right. So I think thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye for now.